Travis Wayne gets on. So, bummer, SNL is not returning until next week. So, little bummed today. But Pete Davidson to finish where he didn't start 5 months ago. So, the big question on everybody's lips, their chapped lips, Plan C, will we be able to even watch it? I don't know. The enemy has to decide. Because the enemy are purposely using the Bible and the astronomy star dates that are given in the book of Revelation specifically to coordinate their overthrow for the latter days. And they're able to do this in secret because they know that Christianity, created by Roman Emperor Constantine, replaced the Jews. And so all of the scriptures of the Jews were prophecies giving us dates of the latter days. And thus all the prophecies are the events symbolized in story form for the fulfillment in the latter days. And with Christianity, they replaced the Jewish scriptures with literal history, which is not correct. It's not literal history, but that's what happens when you replace the Jewish prophecies that are not literal history. And as a result, every single prophecy being turned into literal history magically disappears. No more prophecies. They're gone. And so every single Christian reading their Bible thinks it's Jesus. Oh, the stories of Jesus. It's so beautiful. Ah. And so Revelation chapter 12, yeah, they think it's some kind of a symbolism about how the birth of Jesus was on 1 CE. That's literal history. They don't care to look at their Urim and Thummim and check to find out that that sign in the heavens did not occur then. And so they purposely are being blinded and deceived about their own latter days. And so they then believe Matthew, which is actually the redactor of the author claiming to be Matthew, who says no man knows the day or the hour of his coming, because they purposely covered it up with Christianity. That's why it was added in to the original author's text. Because Matthew does give the latter day dates, days and hours. Did you ever wonder why it's 3 hours of darkness rather than the Exodus, which was 3 days of darkness? Or in the Book of Mormon, 3 days of darkness? And so Revelation 12 is the start of the latter days, as the Book of Mormon confirms it, because it's right there in 1 Nephi that I went over with you. I can't go back and redo all of the videos that I've already done. Go to the playlist. If you have trouble finding it in the playlist section, because I have too many playlists, go to the home page. It's right there at the top. go back in order. Then you have to be signed in so that you can see the little red line at the bottom of the video, so that it shows that you've seen that video or where you've left off in that video. And there's other problems that I won't get into right now. And so the date, being the 23rd of September 2017, means that all prophecies now fit into that start date. That's important to know and understand when you're going through your Book of Mormon, because that date is right there at the beginning of the Book of Mormon, which means every single story in the Book of Mormon, in the learning of the Jews, is a prophecy of right now, from 2017. And so, Saturday, we're having a annular solar eclipse, and it passes over Utah. It's now being announced in the news for you. But what they are not telling you is that they've covered it up with Mormon Jesus Christianity. It's in the prophecies of the learning of the Jews, as I've been going over with you all these years. And Mormons, because they are blinded by Jesus Christianity, non-Trinitarian, they think that I'm wicked, that I'm of the devil, because no man knows the day or the hour, Travis. And if it is to be revealed, only President Russell Marion Nelson has authority to receive revelation as a revelator to know and expound to Mormons about this. Has he? No. Why? Because he's the leader of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is what Mormons are in denial of. They have replaced Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, just as Christianity replaced the Jews and their scripture Bible, to magically disappear all of the prophecies in the Book of Mormon and in the words of Joseph Smith. Because when you see it's talking about Jesus or the Messiah or the Christ, it's not Christian interpretation, dumbasses, anti-Semites. It's the learning of the Jews. And you're supposed to instantly go in your mind to Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19. So that you may see and decode or unseal the hidden secrets, mysteries of the Jews that were there all along and are plain and precious, but were taken out with Christian literal history interpretation to cause a stumbling block for Mormons and Christians. And so I'll give you a little extra information about the eclipse. It's in the constellation of Virgo. Virgo is the bride, the church, who gave birth to Emmanuel on the 23rd of September 2017, the start of his ministry. Because out of the great and abominable church will come the Messiah to save Mormons from the great and abominable church, and Lucifer, who's the leader of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the latter days. Russell Marion means red star, which is Mars, which is the bride of Venus, which Isaiah says is described as the inverted pentagram of the falling star symbol. Thus, Mars is Lucifer, the Roman god. And so for the Latin Vulgate to be in the Book of Mormon is a prophecy that Lucifer literally will be the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the latter days. And so remember that the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars falling from heaven in 2014, 2015. Perry Packer's caught, bite the big one. Nelson takes over as the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. Yeah. Somebody's watching from above. Whoa. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. And so the annular eclipse is right there at her womb. And it passes over Utah, where the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints rules and reigns. Between 10:24 and 10:35 a.m. it begins and ends. Wow, how did you know that, Travis? Astronomy, it's a science. Christianity replaced science. Turned everybody into the Dark Ages. And so it's an abortion. The baby aborts. Who is the baby? The leader of the church. Who is the leader of the church that's there, that gets aborted? Mars. Bye-bye, Nelson. Bye-bye. But there's more. Because the scriptures prophesy of the fall of the great and abominable church. The collapse of Babylon, the whore, the religion. It's right there in first section of the Doctrine and Covenants, verse 16. Why didn't Bruce R. McConkie decode it? Bruce, can you come back from the dead and explain why? Bruce, why does Samson get bound to pillars of a house? They didn't have pillars at their houses. The temple did. Why is he blind? What does the blindness represent? Bruce, where are you? Can you fill us in here? You kind of replaced the symbolism of Scripture with your ridiculous footnoting. Yes, the story of Samson. His first wife is burned with fire with her dad. And so, daddy is the sun, daughter is the angel standing in the sun for the annular eclipse in Virgo, the church wife of the sun king Samson. The fall of the church. Don't keep Samson away from his bride. But it's the great and abominable church of the Philistines who murders her. they that come shall burn them. You have to be paying attention to my videos, guys. The scriptures are trying to warn you. Because the enemy knows that you can't see it because of Christian blindness. That's why they're a secret combination. They think that they're getting away with this. And they are. They've already got all their people in position all around the world. They've got us in checkmate. And yet they're still on Plan C now. Despite all the planning, all the preparation, they're on Plan C. Oh, dear God. And so, yes, this is what Joseph Smith knew and was warning us. And like I told you, it's senior, because he was working with William Morgan on the book. On 9/11, 1826, they found him, and they threatened him to be silent, or they were going to murder him. That's why the Book of Mormon is written in code, in Jewish prophecy manner, so that nobody would know that the enemy, hopefully, won't prevent them from finishing the book. But, oops, Martin Harris steals the 116 pages, and Senior is now required to rewrite the first part of the book, because he was the only one that was there with William Morgan with the 116 pages. So Senior is pretty much the only one who knows the information to rewrite it. These are the kinds of things that you need to do when you're doing research and study. Looking for patterns, getting the actual factual evidence, putting the pieces together to develop Socratic method theories and have them tested. You can't just say, well, if we get the brass plates, then we can prove that the Book of Mormon is literal history true. Gotta dismiss your theory. It's wrong. You have to be able to test. If you can't test, you can't have the theory. You gotta drop it. You gotta come up with something else. And so, this is chapter 3, as I've now designated. There were no chapters, there were no verses. It's just all text. First Nephi, text. Second Nephi, text. And so I'm designating it by chapters by the linguistic pattern that Joseph Smith Sr. gives for the ending of a story. Dwelling in a tent. And so this starts chapter 3 as a result. And which is hilarious, because what did the enemy do? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, through the Council for National Policy, they overturned the Constitution, compromising the Supreme Court justices to commit an act of seditious conspiracy, and overturn Roe v. Wade for abortion. The 14th Amendment, Section 1. The rights go to the woman. She is born and naturalized as a citizen. She has the rights. Not the man, not the fetus. And yet, who's the biggest push for this to deny women their rights? Christianity, with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Why are women in the church? Why are women in denial that the church hates them? Wants to subject them into sex trafficking slavery. Under polygamy, child brides. Why are you allowing yourself to be subjected to the greatest trauma you will ever experience in your life with a faith crisis? You'd rather blame me than get it over with so that you can move on with your life, so that your faith crisis won't be as severe. All right, so this is where Nephi and his brothers go back to Jerusalem to obtain the brass plates, the record of the history of the people. And as I told you, this is in this time period of the latter days. This isn't leading up to it. You know, Joseph Smith Jr. is being groomed by Senior to get the Book of Mormon out. But the Book of Mormon is talking about the future. And so, yes, you can be aware of the dualistic prophecy, but focus on the latter days, because that's what they tell you in the beginning. And so when I tell you of the dream that I had in 2017 of February, right before the church's Family Day, Discovery Day. They held it every year except for the creeping death year when you were supposed to leave in the Exodus to go to Zion and you didn't, and now you're going to be destroyed. And survivors may go there, assuming I survive. Nelson and his wife held the Discovery Day that year at Salt Lake City. I went to Elko. Not a coincidence, but I didn't know it at the time. Sort of. I knew something was up, but I didn't know what was up yet. And went book signing. Cast out to the back. I was just allowed to attend because of the so-called friends that I had connections, and was invited to the event, and he was going to speak. But she got me involved, and they didn't bother to explain further information. They just knew that I was a book publisher, as he had published one book and gets to do a little speaking presentation, whereas I am well published by then. But nonetheless, they forced me at the last minute to change my plans because they didn't tell me what kind of plans I should plan for. And so it was a struggle financially. But nonetheless, we went into the flooding of Elko during the partial lunar eclipse. Revelation chapter 12, at the end of the chapter. But the dream I had before that was that being in the top of the mountain, Utah, I was in a house, and in my room, I didn't recognize the room, but nonetheless, I knew it was my room. I was packing my suitcases, putting my stuff in the suitcases. 3 things, 3 suitcases, 3 months. And my dad came in, and so that has to do with government leadership authority. And we were talking, I don't remember what we were talking about, and I packed closed the suitcases, carried them out, and as I was walking on the dirt path to the pickup truck, blue, I think, maybe, and coming from behind it, so I don't know, I think it was blue, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Looking to my left, I see the grove of trees, and there are missionaries, and I think they were without their jackets. Doesn't matter, but they were, little 18, 19-year-old missionaries. I was 19 when I went, but Monson had changed it to 18. But it doesn't matter, I don't know ages by looking at guys. But I got their attention, yelled out to them, and said, "Hey guys, I'm going on a mission too." Put the suitcases in the back of the pickup, got in the passenger side of the vehicle, and that was the end of the dream. And so sure enough, 3 months later in May, I began obtaining the history of the people. I began putting together the brass plates. Prophecy fulfilled. And yes, Nelson was angry with me. Wanted me to pay with the high-priced Joseph Smith volumes rather than going to the website. But all kinds of efforts were made to try to keep me from obtaining the records and to be separated from them and destroy them. All these years. And yeah, I was betrayed by the second wife who cut my hair. We were married in room number 13 of the Philistine temple and had our wedding supper feast at the Lion House next to the Beehive House. Prophecy fulfilled, Mormons. But yes, you replaced it with Christianity. And so it's all gone. All the prophecies are gone. Magically disappeared. You can do magic. Replace the Jews with Christianity. And so you don't know your Christ. You don't know that he's among you, that he's here, and he's warning you, and you ignore him. You mock him. You accuse him falsely, as Laban did. You are thieves. You're trying to steal from me. And then he gives the Deuteronomy 19 oopsie, which is where the beam in the moat comes from. He falsely accuses them of trying to steal the brass plates. And instead, and because of that, says, "I will murder you." Are you sure you wanted to do that, Nelson? Because at the beginning of chapter 3, the new chapter 3, when they get to Jerusalem, the brothers cast lots. Remember, this is the learning of the Jews. You're not supposed to be hung up on if this is gambling and if this is approved and why is it in the Book of Mormon and do we allow for gambling on certain occasions or what's going on? No! There's a feast of the Jews of lots. Purim. It technically isn't translated as lots, but it is because it's fruits in Paleo Hebrew. Pur. Meow. Cat scratch fever. Babies. Fruits. And it's from the book of Ishtar, the Mesopotamian goddess, who originates from Isis, the Egyptian goddess, the wife of Osiris, who is Emmanuel, who dies, and then son Emmanuel restores the throne from Set. And she's forced to be the queen after the original woman did not please the king. And so Ishtar is a Jew that's there in captivity. And there's an evil guy who works for the king who doesn't like the Jews and wants to exterminate the Jews. And he builds this weapon specifically to assassinate, exterminate the Jews. And Mordecai, finds out about this and informs Queen Ishtar and pleads with her to see the king and let him know of this and try to stop it. And so because she's a honey hottie, she bursts into the throne room of the king, which is punishable by death. If he did not call you into his chambers, you will die. You are a national security threat. But she's a honey hottie, and he let her in. And she was able to plead her case for the Jews of this weapon that was being designed to purposely exterminate them and her, his wife. And so he's unhappy with that. He doesn't want his wife to die because she's a honey hottie. She's pleasing him. And so, yeah. The weapon that was used to assassinate the Jews was used on the creator of the weapon who intended to assassinate the Jews. That is Purim. That is the beam and the mote and the punishment affixed. The penalty. And so that is the festival of Purim. That despite the abuse of the Jews all these millennia, that if the Jews remain faithful, their enemies will get their comeuppance. And yeah, so far they have, eventually. Jews still had to get chased around Europe. Jews are still being persecuted to this day in the United States of America, where they are given constitutional protections. And it's the Christian extremists who are attacking them. The white supremacists. And so this is what you're supposed to catch from this. Because that's what happens. Laban falsely accuses and sentences the brothers to death. And what happens? He dies. And yeah, Nephi has to do it. But Senior, for some reason, does not bring this up. And he can't, I guess, because they are trying to get the brass plates, which has that information on it. But that's exactly what they're doing. They're following the law of the Jews. And so there's that story summed up for you, despite being long in its passage. And so all of these attempts, they're attempts to listen to the Spirit and make it manifest. This is also what you're supposed to understand from Purim, fruits. We'll liken the word unto the seed. The seed is the word that you get in your head. Ideas, revelations, visions, dreams. The word. And you are supposed to produce the results. the fruit. Seed, the word, without fruit, results, is dead. That's the doctrine of Mormonism and the keystone of Mormonism. Now, where are you getting spiritual witness from again? Oh, you took out manifest, did you? Or did you replace manifest with the spiritual witness? And thus it disappears. Physically disappears. Magic. And so you don't need to be concerned that Nephi is becoming evil like Laban for murdering him. He didn't murder him. That was justice. For the justice system to impose a death penalty is not murder. When you murder someone, you cannot restore the damage. No matter how much good you can do after that. Oh, I murdered somebody? Oh, I promise, I found Jesus now. I've reformed. Please let me out so that I can murder more. Do good in society. No, you have denied justice for an individual that you murdered. Your life must be forfeit because of what you did. No matter how much good you can do to other people, you didn't do good to the one. Your life must be forfeit. Now, in our justice system that's corrupt, innocent people get accused of murder. And so in a corrupt system, we kind of need to make sure that the right people are locked up and that the innocent ones get DNA tested to get out. Or we can just correct the system and do it right. But nope. We didn't start the fire. And apparently I heard he hated that song. As somebody else went and revised it. Where did I learn that from? Was it John Oliver? Or was it Bill Maher? I can't remember now. And so, that's the story of the records. The prophecy that you all miss for replacing it with Christianity. And there's the scene where the angel comes and tells the Mormons, don't try to murder your Christ. And you notice that Mormons don't do it. What's also interesting is that I've been warning you, when the church released the handbook, the coveted handbook that they sued Gerald and Sandra Tanner for posting, and didn't sue the other guy who posted it. And now I've released it to the general public. And then kept doing editings. And it contains a whole bunch of abominations in it, which is why it was a sacred secret before. In so doing, I told you that they are doing a plan B for this thing of preserving the church, of Christianity interpretation, so that if the prophets do all die, a Mormon, which typically was a priesthood leader of the stake presidency or the bishopric or elder quorum president, or what used to be the high priest group, but Nelson took it away. So no Mormon can be exalted now unless they become a leader in the church. You're not paying attention to this. I had too many guys tell me, I'm still a high priest, Travis. I didn't get demoted to become an elder. Yeah, but you're being grandfathered out. The current elders unless they become a leader in the church, will never be a high priest, and thus will be denied exaltation in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, and will be denied 10 virgins. Gotta pay attention. Because when Oakes tells you, oh, it's scripturally sound, just trust us. I knew when Oakes said it, he was lying to us to cover it up. Because he didn't go over the scripture. That's why. That was your first clue. Because I came out with a whole bunch of scriptures when I did the videos. That conference. Dear God. And so, yeah, they're hoping to make sure that the evil church survives. Because I did the cell phone yesterday. Your cell phones won't work during Armageddon. And so you're going to be without the record. And so by posting it online for everybody, he's hoping that a Mormon will be able to preserve it and continue the church in the case of the church leaders dying off or not being able to return. And if you're wondering, well, why would they do that, Travis? Well, Joseph Smith prophesied that they would flee and abandon the Mormons to their deaths. Section 101, the parable, starting in verse 43. Verse 51, then the enemy. Joseph Smith history, or Joseph Smith papers, didn't get published by Brigham Young because Brigham Young is exposed as the enemy. His church for the latter days. Then the enemy. And so, so personally, I hope no Mormon would preserve it. But as Christian did with the Jews, you had the Gnostics, who had some knowledge of some things, but was considered excommunicado for the Council of Nicaea. But yeah, you'll have Mormons who are temple workers who will know the temple rituals, having memorized them. But then you'll have stake presidents who will know the leadership in the handbook, and they won't know the temple stuff. And then temple workers won't know the church handbook stuff. And so there'll be conflicts over, who has authority now that the church has been destroyed. But that's the sign in the heavens for Saturday. And Joseph Smith Sr. put in the Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 1, sign in the heaven in the likeness of things on the earth. That's why I give you the fulfillment, the Purim, the lots of the fulfillment of the prophecies in the Book of Mormon. It's true in the learning of the Jews. It is false with Christian interpretation. You miss out on all the prophecies otherwise. So, anything else I need to talk about? Yeah, there's Zoram that's thrown in there, and he's the one that is fooled into thinking that Nephi, who can't be more than 10 years old, if it's literal history, is somehow a full adult who is large of stature, as I say, but that's a prophecy. And fools Zoram into thinking that he's Laban. Hilarious. And so the sword of Laban, the sword is considered the word. Thus, with the brass plates, the sword of Laban, the word usurpation is involved here. Which, yes, Jacob, the usurper. And that's what Joseph Smith is trying to tell Mormons, is that your Christ, new name Nephi, not new name Noah. Did you catch on that new name Noah, that was his new name in the temple? And yes, mine was Nephi, May 6, 1989. Los Angeles Temple, Temple of Angels, also prophesied here. So we'll make sure we get that in at the end, where nobody's listening. But yeah, my new name is Nephi, who came to Joseph Smith in the second vision. Not Moroni. Joseph Smith papers, guys. And have been gathering the brass plates, who fulfilled Ezekiel 37, which is the brass plates. And was visited by an angel in a dream. And the Temple of Angels, where I got the new name Nephi. All of this prophecy, guys. And it's fulfilled. I am the fulfillment. And you know me not, because you're looking for Jesus. That's what's wild. And yeah, Mormons don't believe, they don't want to go. They're scared of the church, that if they go against the church will murder them. And yeah, they will. Right, Todd? Uh-huh. See, my brother feared the church, and he was weaponized to attack me. But Purim, because my brother told the lawyer that the church threatened him, I was able to turn that back on the church. And I'm sure the lawyer told my brother he's out of luck and it's all tough beans. And obviously the church hasn't been punished for what they did to my brother to do to me. Oh, look what he's talking about here. After the angel leaves, what does Nephi tell his brothers who still are starting to doubt it? He talks about Moses, the confrontation with Pharaoh. Ta-da! The Exodus. Which also, yeah, I sued the church in 2020. That's when they got served. And then there was another second lawsuit against the church in 2020. Prophecy fulfilled, creeping death. And I parted the waters too. That was wild. I was just warning Mormons, saying, hey, pay attention. If something happens, meet at the turnoff at the Green River, at the I-70 and the others that merge into it. And then the news came out later and said, the Green River has dried up. Oh, I parted the waters. Cool. And I still have my staff. That's why I do the props. There's a reason. I'm trying to let you know. But you're not listening. And so yeah, all of the star charts that correspond with the deaths of every president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, yeah, he's pissed. Why can't you see it, Mormons? Oh, right, Christian Jesus blinds you from that. I did the chart for you. I did the pictures for every single president. Sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven for every single president of the church. God's pissed with you. Bye-bye, Nelson. Bye-bye. The question is, will Oakes go too? He's drooling. Did you see that? He was drooling at conference. You can see that he knows he's next. Dear God. You gotta pay attention to him, because he's gonna be worse than Nelson. Because he's the one that was whispering in the ear of Nelson to have things changed. The voice of the Spirit, led by the Spirit, and knowing in advance what he was going to do and where to go. So notice how the brass plates are considered as part of the treasury. They're brass plates, they're not treasure. And the magic underwear. He put them on. So Zoram saw the magic underwear and assumed that he was Laban. Wasn't Joseph's. No. And notice how we call them garments. We don't call them undergarments. We can't even say undergarments. That's how pornographic, obsessed the church is. And so, yes, he slays him with his own sword. Purim, lots, fruits. Deuteronomy 19, which Deuteronomy was all one book, by the way. It wasn't divided into chapters and verses when it was written, because it has to do with chapter 19, 18, 15 through 19. And supposedly because he's large in stature, he was able to hold Zoram. Hold me, thrill me. And makes a covenant that if you will come with me to Zion, I won't slay you, and I'll give you a wife. 10 virgins. No, polygamy is banned in the Book of Mormon. Oh, that's Joseph is evil. He was a polygamist. The Book of Mormon condemns it, but makes him evil. And so, yeah, Zoram gets adopted in to go to Zion. Back to Lehi, in the tents. And thus the end. And so chapter 4 is when they arrive, because Senior puts in, and journeyed unto the tent of our father. Thus ends chapter 3. The story is now over. And destroy us. Destroy. Again, that's supposed to trigger in your mind. Joseph Smith History, verse 40. Listen to your Christ, or you'll be cut off. Because it's precisely as it stands in Acts. So you go to Acts, and it's not cut off. It's destroyed. And Acts is from Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19, which is not destroyed or cut off. I will require it of them, I think is the wording. But then you see in 19, the punishment. Destroyed. Because they sought to destroy you falsely. That's the punishment. And so, yeah, go to Zion. Go in the Exodus. That's an Exodus right here. Nephi and his brothers and Zoram, no women again. Go to Zion to live in caves until they die, and the human race dies with them. No, women. They all stayed back and became pillars of the Great Salt Lake. And I'm not talking about pillars of stature. I'm a businesswoman in Great Salt Lake. No, I'm talking about staying behind and getting destroyed and turning into a pillar of salt from Lot and his wife. But that's a different Lot. Let's find out. I want to find out. Because I think it's LT and not PR. We're at 55. We can take another 5 minutes to figure this out, can't we? Brother Lot. 12:05. And then we'll see how cooperative Google search will be this morning. And it's Sunday. It should cooperate. And even in verse 4. Hold me through. I've got that song in my head. I'll listen to that today. Despite the other song that I had talked about. The white screen of death, 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 like hell. Yep. So I put on my Google screen my picture of the Pyramid Utopia. It has the pyramids of Giza, and they're repeated multiple times. And then there's a brick road leading across the river to the pyramids. And then there's lush vegetation in between the pyramids, which is kind of weird. They should have made the pyramids lush green too, but still, I thought it was cool about Zion. And then I put the medical doctor who filled in when Armageddon struck the city of Atlantis from Stargate Atlantis. I'm not afraid of a woman of power. She just can't take away my agency. But I have yet to find a woman who's as smart as I am. Because women tend to get afraid of my knowledge and think that they're not good enough and run away. What's up with that? Alrighty. Westminster Leningrad Codex. I love you just the way you are. Don't go trying. Yep. Lot. Yeah, it's got the other T, which is the crossroads of the latter days. Covenant of the crossroads of the latter days. Which some people, Foxwell Albright called it a serpent. Dumbass. So, there you have it.